Do you remember Club Penguin? Actually, a better question to ask is, do you miss Club Penguin? Do you miss coming home from school to customize your penguin, interact with your friends, and play mini games? I know I sure do, but unfortunately, all that came to a close on March 30th, 2017, because Club Penguin servers officially shut down. Sure, we have private servers made by dedicated fans, but it's not the same. Your penguin isn't the same. Now I want you to think about where your old penguin is after you left them behind. On June 11th of 2017, a YouTube channel going by Near Intelligent Human would upload a video titled, "What's Left of Club Penguin?" The video opens up with a bit of narration.
Town center as it looks today, weeks after the global shutdown of Club Penguin. Once the center of communication and friend-making, now a dead zone, dangerous to the unwitting scavenger.
We see two red penguins drag out a blue penguin and start beating it up with different weapons. Shortly after, we're introduced to our main character, little Jeffy. He just walks by watching, but despite the blue penguin's cry for help, he simply doesn't do anything. His stomach rumbles, and he shifts his attention towards the pizza parlor. The beatdown continues, and little Jeffy heads towards the pizza place. In the background, a distorted version of the original pizza parlor theme can be heard. Our narrator then informs us that the pizza place no longer serves pizza, yet the oven happens to be on. Little Jeffy walks towards the oven, and what he sees petrifies him. The camera zooms in and we see the dismembered limbs of a purple penguin. Little Jeffy moves back in fear and he throws up. He hears something and decides to run outside. Leaving the kitchen, we see the cannibal penguin, a brown penguin with a skull mask. He runs after little Jeffy, but he manages to escape. The cannibal fails to catch up, although his luck shifts once he notices the blue penguin's corpse. Once he realizes it's alive, he default dances in joy. The video ends with him dragging him out. For a first episode, it's not bad. There is a lot of creativity behind this, and it's overall pretty creepy, but it doesn't feel like it's setting up towards anything big. Everything feels way too parody-ish, almost like a Family Guy cutaway gag. That's all because this first episode was supposed to be the only episode, but as it started getting more popular, fans wanted more, so the creators decided to flesh out this post-apocalyptic penguin world into a series he called Club Penguin Shutdown. Every episode's title has a subject that's going to be relevant in the coming episode. For this second one, it's titled The Gang. The episode opens up to the mine shack, which is also all gray and run down. There are flags with tubas on them, as this area is territory of the infamous Tuba Gang. I should also mention that the Tuba Gang, alongside the other gangs that are going to make an appearance in the series, were actual Club Penguin groups and communities. Going back to the episode, we see little Jeffy pop into the scene and hide inside the mine shack, which of course is a bad idea. The cannibal shows up but decides to walk away because he knows this zone is bad news. Once we're inside, we see little Jeffy settle down. Another character starts to whisper in and asks little Jeffy if everything is all good and if the gang is gone. Little Jeffy doesn't know how to respond, as he simply just doesn't know what's going on. The hiding penguin steps out and we see two female penguins start to follow along, as they've been hiding for days. The three penguins try to leave but are suddenly stopped by the Tuba Gang. Little Jeffy trips and rides the minecart. Here we learn that the minecart contains mysterious substances. Back to the refugee penguins, the Tuba Gang comes out, with their leader expressing their anger. He asks them who they are and why they're there. The three penguins tremble in fear as they start to rat out little Jeffy. This alarms the Tuba Gang leader as they notice the cart is gone. He becomes enraged and turns around to interrogate the refugee penguins about where the stuff is. The leader slaps the blue penguin, knocking him down, and then threatens the fellow penguins he was with. Still enraged over the idea of the penguins losing the substances, the Tuba Gang start to beat down on the fallen blue penguin. The gang leader makes the pink penguin watch as her friend is beaten up, with blood falling on her face. He asks where the stuff is, to which the pink penguin's demeanor changes to a more sinister one, as she says, "Little Jeffy."
The shutdown of Club Penguin created many monsters. Just when you thought you saw the worst one, another one shows you just how bad a penguin can be. With no order, no law, and no moderation, no penguin in this world gets banned.
The episode ends with the bloody corpse of the blue penguin tied to a tree as his blood writes out Tuba Gang. A massive step up from the first episode. We start to see more of this world post-shutdown, leading to violent gangs that are smuggling drugs. Now, the voice of the narrator could be a bit stronger, but his tone of voice is definitely more serious compared to the first episode. I also want to bring up the attention to detail in these animations. It has that dreadful wasteland vibe, but it's still authentic to the good old Club Penguin that we know and love. Continuing onto the crack, we see little Jeffy riding the minecart down the rails. The narrator brings up how he's approaching a dead end and might have to turn around to face the gang if he wants an exit. Once again, little Jeffy thinks about pizza. In his hungry state, he begins to munch down on the substances, and his eyes start to change into a multitude of colors. He starts hallucinating, and we can see in his mind he's in a galaxy of pizza-based fantasies. Later, he finds himself in an oven, with a giant cannibal watching over the oven from outside. Little Jeffy turns into a pizza and slowly starts getting eaten by the giant cannibal. Little Jeffy crashes into a dead end, creating an opening from the cave. On the other side, there's the beach, where a group of campers light a campfire. Little Jeffy's hallucinations continue as we see deformed purple penguins, and then his head coming off, tipping the iceberg. The campers wake him up and think he's safe to help out because he doesn't have any gang tattoos. Unbeknownst to them, little Jeffy is still high, and he starts to see them as penguin ladies. One of the survivors hands little Jeffy some food, which little Jeffy sees as a fish burger. In reality, they're Puffles. A black Puffle watches in the trees with a look of disdain as his fellow penguins are being eaten. We cut to the Tuba Gang deciding to hunt for little Jeffy. The effects of the crash still linger, and as they go further into the mine shaft, the cave collapses on them. This takes out the entire gang except for the leader. The sail opens up with little Jeffy and the campers lying around a campfire. We also see the black Puffle jump around. Little Jeffy snaps out of his high, now realizing the position he's in, and the fact that he ate Puffles. He starts to leave the cove and ends up back at the plaza, where he then sees the cannibal again. The cannibal just looks in the distance, which causes little Jeffy to back away and head towards the cove. Once there, he gets to the cave he opened, and one of the survivors wakes up. The survivor begins to notice the substances and realizes the riches they could obtain. We cut to a deal going on with the survivors and a penguin with goggles. This penguin is a part of a gang called the Rebel Penguin Federation. As two penguins hold snowballs, the camper demands for access to the other penguin's territory, clothing since the penguin runs the clothing store, and women. The narrator talks about how the campers are misogynistic, sick fucks. The RPF member scoffs at his deal, but eventually settles on the woman. He brings out the rest of his gang along with a girl and tries to take the substances without fully paying their end of the deal. The girl penguin was actually the penguin who witnessed her brother get beaten to death earlier. She informs the dealers about little Jeffy and the substances' origins, crashing out at the thought of little Jeffy. Little Jeffy trembles in fear and the RPF leader decides to back out, realizing the substances come from the Tuba Gang. The camper gets angry and headshots the penguin. The narrator then informs us that snowball throwing has become a lot more deadly since the shutdown. A gang war occurs between the Cove penguins and the RPF, making use of the forts. Little Jeffy tries his best to not shit himself again as he continues to tremble in fear. The girl escapes and tries to help little Jeffy escape as well. As they leave, the camper erupts in a burst of anger, demanding that he comes back before he gets shot. The two escape to the plaza, but out of nowhere, the girl penguin knocks out little Jeffy. Following episode is titled The Girl. Get a better look at the aftermath of the gang war. One camper survives and crawls on the floor only to be met with the black Puffle from earlier and be curb stomped. The Puffle sniffs little Jeffy's feces and follows him. Now we cut to little Jeffy in a chair all tied up. The girl penguin wants to take his life, not only as revenge for her brother, but also because of his reputation of being feared by the gangs, as she will be the one who took down little Jeffy. She douses little Jeffy in oil and lights a fuse. She taunts little Jeffy in his final moments, only for then the cannibal penguin to sneak up from behind, knock down the girl penguin, and then have her set ablaze. Following this, she screams in pain, and the cannibal penguin drags the chair with tied little Jeffy. The fire spreads to the oven, causing an explosion. The girl penguin screams at little Jeffy in anger, somehow still alive as she burns to death, and her arm comes off. An even bigger explosion happens, launching both the cannibal and little Jeffy out of the restaurant. Little Jeffy lands on the manhole, where he slips out of the chair and falls into the sewers. We cut to the clothing store, which is now a strip club of sorts. The Tuba Gang leader gets his tuba blown by a female penguin, which I think you know what this is alluding to. A group of purple penguins with hard hats, or the Purple Republic, open the closet. They begin to belittle the Tuba Gang leader, making fun of the fact that he's gone on the low end and lost his crew to little Jeffy. The Tuba leader puts the PR leader in a chokehold and has a speech about little Jeffy. As he suffocates the penguin, he tries to unite the Purple Republic to team up against little Jeffy. He ends up cutting the penguin's airflow entirely, taking him out and leaving him as the new leader of the Purple Republic. Now we move on to the agent. We open up with a flashback back to the Tuba Gang during the cave collapse. Then it shifts to the two female penguins tied to a chair. The Tuba leader sells the girls to a Republic penguin and thinks about whether or not it's a good idea to give up his life of crime. He then says fuck it before moving on to the next scene. We cut back to the Tuba boss talking to the female penguin, where they talk about how the female penguin isn't upset about the fact the blue penguin was killed, since she didn't know him too well. The Tuba leader watches the aftermath of the gang war and becomes upset about it. It goes back to little Jeffy post-explosion. He falls into the underground pool and gets knocked out. He starts to sink in the green water before he is saved by an agent. We learn from the narrator that the elite penguin force has been shut down, and that the agent we see see is the last one. The agent patches up little Jeffy, while little Jeffy thinks about pizza again. Instead, the agent gives him Puffalos, the pet food of the Puffles, since it's pretty much all he has left. He talks about how he's been in the underground pool since the shutdown, and that he received a message from the decoding machine earlier in the morning about a potential safe haven where survivors are living peacefully. In his dialogue, the agent brings up how the EPF were responsible for something horrible, even though little Jeffy doesn't care, and focuses on the Puffalo he lost under the machine. The agent starts to have a light Yagami type monologue, screaming about his guilt due to him not doing anything to stop the agents. Little Jeffy just ignores him, but the agent watches outside the window as he talks about the only penguins to keep him company. The camera zooms in and we see penguin corpses just floating around, hinting at the fact that EPF committed a massacre. The agent tries to take his own life by breaking the glass. This scares little Jeffy, so he tries to escape by climbing the ladder. Because of the broken window, the room overflows with murky water and penguin corpses. Little Jeffy fails to escape, falling into the water, while the agent snaps out of his episode to go save little Jeffy. They both manage to escape, and as they escape, the agent finally sees what happened to the surface. He makes a vow to bring back the good of the EPF and dedicate his journey to helping little Jeffy. Moving on to the strangers, we open up to a ruined Puffle Hotel. Our characters walk in and decide to seek refuge in such a place. They split up to make sure there's no one else in the building. The agent pries open the elevator door and little Jeffy follows. Little Jeffy enters a dark room where we start hearing sounds. Little Jeffy then slips on a bar of soap and drops the paper that contains the information from the decoding machine. A green penguin walks up to him. His introduction is followed by a close-up. It seems to have been deformed. Every episode of SpongeBob always got this scene for no reason. As they walk out, we see more eyes pop up. Now we're in the perspective of the agent, investigating the loft of the hotel. Two penguins walk up to him, which the agent thinks is little Jeffy, only until one of them lands a striking blow onto the agent. He gets back up and we get a fight sequence. After he knocks out the two penguins off the building, he decides to go search for little Jeffy. Both little Jeffy and the deformed penguin are dragged out by penguins with bandanas. The agent saves them by killing one of the penguins, and the other runs away. As the narrator puts it, that was freaking nuts. They go back into the lobby of the hotel and shut down the door. Later, they sit around to talk about who those gang members are, noticing how the penguins wanted to drag them somewhere. Little Jeffy pulls out the paper, which relieves the agent. The paper says these words: "To find the surviving penguins, go sledding. Our trio now have one goal, to go to the ski hill." We get a mini episode called Halloween. However, it doesn't have a number or title. It begins with a timer going off and the island glitching to its Halloween theme. The hotel bell goes off, so little Jeffy just throws it out, though the bell lands in the water of the underground pool, hitting the decoding machine and creating a static. It wakes up the dead penguins. Now we switch to two penguins around a campfire, when suddenly a green penguin approaches them. Thinking about whether or not to save it, the green penguin grabs the blue one. The blue penguin is then dragged out into the pool to be eaten by a chimera of penguin corpses. The video ends with a small jump scare. The alliance starts back to where the two penguins are being attacked by the agent. The one who survived decides to go hide back at the fort. The penguin is in fear as not only did he find a remaining agent, but he was also face to face with the notorious little Jeffy. As he says little Jeffy's name, it does a small SpongeBob mouth segment. At the clothing store, the Tuba Gang leader talks about not wanting to rush little Jeffy's attack. Penguins with mismatched clothing, identified as the strangers, walk into the clothing store. They become enraged as they were allies with the previous gang who gave them resources, but the Tuba Gang leader reminds him that it wasn't him who took them out, it was little Jeffy. The two continue to talk when all of a sudden, the penguin from earlier runs in, informing everyone about what happened in the previous episode. After this confrontation, the Tuba guy decides to give the penguin a couple of ladies. The stranger's leader wants to go hunt little Jeffy in the hotel, to which the Tuba leader asks him why their faction abducts penguins. The stranger's leader then reveals he needs the penguins for recreation. They decide to create an alliance to take down little Jeffy. Two PR members talk about how they're finally going after little Jeffy, with one talking about how he's afraid to fight. They also start to complain about the Tuba guy bossing them around, and decides to join little Jeffy, starting a coup against the Tuba leader. Now we see two red penguins taking the substance around a campfire at the underground cave. They open a box, to which a Puffle comes out. The Puffle starts getting force-fed the psychedelics, and we then see his hallucinations. He hops into the cannon and rams into the wall. We get a close-up of the green penguin who joined little Jeffy. It's here we see that the penguin may not fully be a penguin at all, but instead a couple of Puffles. The fall shows us murky water flooding the mine, and then we see the monster. We cut back to the hotel, where the agent starts looking at the note. He ventures off by himself into the fort, where the bodies cause him to go on another episode. He contemplates taking his own life, but his is then stopped by the sound of a tuba. The agent returns back to the hotel and the tuba gets louder. We then hear the tuba boss screaming for little Jeffy, demanding to see his minecart again. The agent is all confused, but when the door opens, the three decide to run away. Little Jeffy and the agent hide, but the puppet stays behind. The penguins approach the puppet, which then, the door behind him opens, and a barrage of puffles start running out. They start taking down the gang penguins. The gang members outside hear screaming and think it's little Jeffy doing all of this. A second group decides to run in. The stranger's leader becomes angry. His crash out is followed by multiple penguins being thrown off the building. They notice how the penguin are only his men, and one of the purple penguins brings up how it's a mutiny. He snitches that a few purple penguins decided to join little Jeffy, which of course angers the tuba leader. A few purple penguins grouped up with little Jeffy and the agent, only for them to be followed up by an attack of snowballs. Two purple penguins get hit in the crossfire, but the rest manage to escape to the rooftop, where we then see the puppet again. With nowhere else to escape, they jump off before the episode ends. Consequences take us back to the perspective of the junkies. At this part, the narrator mentions that he actually likes these penguins quite a lot. We cut back into the attack from last episode, where the building collapses, but the group jump into the mall. Little Jeffy and a purple penguin survive by landing into the fountain, while the agent lands on the green penguin. Of course, we also see the corpses of the purple penguins who didn't stick the landing. The agent seems to have survived, while the PR penguin checks up on his friend, who is in his final moments. Even though he's about to die, the purple penguin is still happy that his friend managed to survive the encounters. A segment of dialogue plays out between the two.
It was my idea to break away.
No. I would rather die like this, on my terms, rather than serving an like the tuba leader.
This wasn't enough. We betrayed him, but he took us out anyway. I swear, I will avenge you. You and the Purple Republic.
Never forget your color. You alone now keep us here. Purple for life.
Purple forever.
The agent reveals that he has a few broken bones, and we also learn that the gangs are still outside. The purple penguin swears to have his revenge, but is discouraged by the agent.
Many members of the Republic wanted to follow you, little Jeffy, and now I'm all that's left. I ask of you only one thing, sir. Will you help me get revenge on the penguin responsible for this?
Another PR penguin, despite his condition, managed to survive and starts screaming in pain. The intact purple penguin tries to shut him up, which leads him to kill his own comrade. After his death, the agent starts having another episode. The PR penguin decides to take him out by smashing a piece of a statue on his face. The tuba leader hears voices, but he instead hears the junkie penguins from the forest. He watches and sees the penguins using the remaining substances, becoming more and more angry. It gets to a point where he shoves one of the penguins into the fire before waterboarding him. He then takes out the other penguin by caving his face into the minecart. The episode ends with the narrator expressing his grief towards the junkie penguins and brings up a moral dilemma on whether or not the penguins deserve the fate they got. Our next episode, the plan, starts off with the tuba leader asking where little Jeffy's body is, to which the stranger's leader responds with the fact that there was no body to recover. A PR penguin knocks him down. Following that, the rest of the Purple Republic circle around him and beat him down. Everyone in the room leaves him behind, including the bow tie girl. The Tuba Gang leader has lost everything, and instead of blaming himself, he decides to blame little Jeffy. Now we're back at the mall, where the purple penguin and little Jeffy plan out what to do next. A purple penguin corpse gets dragged out by Puffles. Little Jeffy, despite everything, still has pizza on his mind. The two return to the pizza restaurant. As the two talk about the restaurant, the cannibal is brought up in the discussion. While they talk, the purple penguin that was dragged gets his insides pulled out by a couple of Puffles. The purple penguin is relieved that the cannibal may be gone, and little Jeffy walks up to the skeleton of the girl penguin. The gutless purple penguin, now puppeteered by Puffles, walks in. Unknowing of the truth, the two are relieved to see him. The puppet pulls out the paper, which talks about the ski hill. Pizza comes back into little Jeffy's mind, as pizza may be at the ski hill. They all venture towards the ski hill and decide not to go near the clothing shop, and then the nightclub. As they explore the ruined hotel, little Jeffy trips and unknowingly saves a trapped orange Puffle. The orange Puffle becomes ecstatic. The passage continues this journey as it opens up up with little Jeffy being afraid to make a jump. He finally decides to make it. They all notice their one road of passage is all flooded. The purple penguin jumps in and tells them they're good. The rest follow, but little Jeffy starts having flashbacks about what happened in the pool previously. A zombie penguin approaches little Jeffy, causing him to run away and catch up to the others. They swim through the boiler room and go up the ladder. The zombies follow, and the two penguins who are already in the room then get pulled to the bottom. Finally, the group arrives at the nightclub. Little Jeffy is then drawn to the old arcade, where we see two surviving sleeping penguins. We'll call them Survivor Guy and Survivor Girl. Little Jeffy tries to turn on the arcade, but because he couldn't reach the plug to the generator, he drags the machine, waking up the survivors. The survivors tremble in fear, and even more so as they see his name. Little Jeffy ignores them and just tries to turn on the machines, which don't seem to be working properly. This alarms the PR penguin downstairs, where he becomes upset at the fact they're causing a lot of noise. Gang leaders pull up to the nightclub, leading the group and the survivors to stay quiet. We cut back to the Asian penguin, who was knocked out in the mall. Next to him, we see a corpse being dragged out. The episode ends with the agent waking up. As you might have guessed from the title, the leaders focuses on all the gang leaders. Our main cast is trapped and they decide little Jeffy should just take them all out. They are all unaware that little Jeffy isn't as powerful as they think, but nonetheless, little Jeffy decides to go face the leaders. The stranger's leader has a speech regarding little Jeffy, though the Viking leader sees little Jeffy as a mere urban legend. The leaders argue amongst themselves and little Jeffy watches from an angle, shivering in fear. The stranger's leader then brings up a matter regarding the Tuba Gang. He brings up the Tuba Gang's big boys and the substance they lost. A gang leader in the crowd mentions how dangerous these big boys are. So then the discussion changes. Instead of talking about how big of a threat little Jeffy is, it's now about how they can get little Jeffy to join them to defeat this even bigger threat. They finally notice little Jeffy, which renders them all speechless. Little Jeffy approaches the stranger's leader, who's also in shock. At a horrible time, the generator begins to start working and light on fire. The group upstairs decides to head down. Meanwhile, little Jeffy shakes and the rest of the gang leaders don't see him as intimidating. The Viking walks towards him with a sword, to where little Jeffy shits himself. As he approaches little Jeffy, he slips on the poop and ends up impaling himself with his own sword. Upstairs, a green fog covers the room. From there, little Jeffy puts his arms in the air, as if he's trying to make a psychic maneuver. The targets from the shooting arcade game begin to fly off, reaching downstairs and taking out some of the gang leaders. Little Jeffy's group decides to start running away, while the gang leaders try to escape as well. Only one gang leader manages to escape, while the rest of them succumb to burning. The one gang leader who survived runs out of the club and screams, "Run, it's fucking little Jeffy!" The Tuba gang leader hears this and decides to start heading over. Another gang leader has managed to escape, but still succumbs to the burning. The Tuba gang leader walks through the club and asks the stranger's leader, who is covering their face, where he is. We then shift back to the agent, now suffering from brain damage and playing Got Your Nose with the puppet penguin. The cannibal, who's off in the corner, has flashbacks to who presumably may be his daughter. He leaves and then we see his shadow, where he went to a chopping table and chops up a penguin. The agent becomes hungry, to which then, the cannibal hands him a piece of penguin meat. Season 1 ends with the episode, The Chase. Our main group is now in the underground pool, where the survivor couple talk about how there was another survivor they had to get. Purple Penguin decides that it probably isn't a good idea to get him. Purple Penguin and the puppet leave. Little Jeffy and the Puffle follow him, but the survivors ask for his help. We hear the Tuba gang leader searching for him, to which little Jeffy moves on. The survivor guy figures it's best to leave their friend behind, which does upset the girl survivor. The Tuba leader watches where they're going and follows them. Little Jeffy, the Puffle, and the puppet decide to go through the mineshaft, while the survivors and the Purple Republican decide to head upstairs. Little Jeffy swims as far as possible. The Tuba gang leader manages to catch up. All of a sudden, they're now face to face with the monster. The Tuba gang leader realizes his situation and abandons them. Little Jeffy and the Puffle manage to escape, but the Puffle ends up being grabbed. Little Jeffy's survival does confuse the Tuba gang leader. With the puppet, the Chimera lands a hit on him, which only causes the Puffles to be separated from the penguin skin and swim away. The PR penguin and the survivors also manage to meet up with them, but then the floor cracks and the Chimera emerges from the ground. The Purple Republican penguin moves in the opposite direction and decides to go to the ski hill. Little Jeffy manages to run out of the forest back into the plaza. He then decides to search for the agent. The Tuba gang leader is also grabbed by a tentacle, and he does manage to escape its tendrils. Little Jeffy, back in the mall, reunites with the agent. It's a happy reunion, sure, but little Jeffy ditches the agent to go hide behind the tree. The Tuba gang leader arrives and has a face-off with the agent. He punches the agent, but the agent doesn't fight back. Enraged, Tuba gang leader screams out for little Jeffy. He then starts beating up the agent. This causes little Jeffy to come out and try using his psychic powers. His powers don't work, and the Tuba leader throws the statue head at him. Realizing how powerless little Jeffy is, the Tuba leader starts becoming more enraged. After falling to the floor, little Jeffy decides to come back up. He watches the Tuba Gang leader beat up his friend even more. Little Jeffy jumps onto the Tuba leader and tries to fight him. The Tuba leader takes little Jeffy off of him, and then he picks up a hockey stick and walks towards little Jeffy. The cannibal makes an appearance and walks towards the agent. The Tuba Gang leader tries to land a striking blow onto little Jeffy, but alas, little Jeffy catches it. With little Jeffy restraining him, the orange Puffle decides to jump onto the Tuba leader. Little Jeffy takes the chance to strike him with the hockey stick. The cannibal approaches the Tuba Gang leader and drags him away. Little Jeffy takes the agent out of the mall, to which our narrator says, "That was freaking nuts." As the three walk out, little Jeffy decides to rest up. He does notice the Tuba Gang's tuba and decides to wear it.
It's almost as if an immense weight has been lifted from our shoulders. Gangs have been taken down, personal threats abolished, and old alliances reformed. Going forward, for the first time since the shutdown, knowing that he has friends and fellow survivors waiting for him at the ski hill, Lil Jeffy begins the next part of his journey perhaps a little more optimistic than he knows. And of course, all the bit more hungry. Of course, everything the Tuba Gang leader claimed Lil Jeffy is responsible for could be true. A larger threat very well may be making its way across the island, and it could all very well be Lil Jeffy's fault.
After the screen fades, we see three of Club Penguin's most iconic characters, Rockhopper, Aunt Arctic, and Rookie. Seems that these three were the big guys the Tuba Gang leader was talking about. Upset that his substance is all gone, Rockhopper plans an all-out invasion, setting up some even higher stakes. That was honestly really good. I think Lil Jeffy works perfectly as a protagonist. His innocence and quiet demeanor is similar to how we were as kids when we played the game, yet his luck stayed on his side, and he somehow became a feared figure in post-apocalyptic Club Penguin. I think the best piece of media to compare this series to is Fallout New Vegas. We're in a wasteland of a former colorful city with a silent protagonist, multiple factions, and creatures beyond our comprehension. I wouldn't be surprised if that game was heavy inspiration for this series. Oh yeah, I think the SpongeBob references are pretty obvious too. One of my main criticisms is the voice acting. Another thing I'd criticize the series for is the pacing. I feel like some things went on longer than they should have. I also could have appreciated more background. Also, how about Club Penguin Island, Herbert, the ninjas, and what exactly did the agents do? Also, aren't the Avengers canon to Club Penguin lore? What the fuck happened to Toontown? Is Toontown in a similar state too? Our first episode of Season 2 is titled The Hunter. We're back to the town center, where the gang leader's corpse starts rotting. Two penguins in armor become ecstatic to see a dead body, and another penguin named Big Jeff enters the coffee shop. The coffee shop has become a hub for hitmen. The screen zooms in and a penguin walks up to him, asking for a hit on Lil Jeffy. Big Jeff doesn't take this whole thing seriously and waits for a higher bidder, so the penguin offers the helmet of a famous Club Penguin moderator named Arsnail. For anyone who doesn't know, Arsnail is the account of the founder of Club Penguin, Lance Preeb. Big Jeff scoffs at this, yet the officer somehow convinces him to take the deal. Now we go back to Lil Jeffy, carrying the agent on a sled as he enters the town square. We hear his stomach rumbling, so foolishly, he enters the cafe. Big Jeff leaves and the officer penguin makes fun of him. Neither of them realize that Lil Jeffy was there with them. Lil Jeffy gets angry and runs outside, where he sees the officer next to the agent. He beats up the officer, leading him to get scared and run away. It also seems like the puppet is now all filled up. We get the view from a telescope, watching the pirate ship. This adds a lot of concern to the penguin behind the telescope, since the ship hasn't left with their stuff yet. Rockhopper jump scares the penguin and his crew of nachos emerge from underneath. Rockhopper is both nostalgic for the island, but is also disdainful of the inaction of the penguin. The nachos throw the penguin off a cliff, then they leave.
You're sure they didn't get the stuff? God damn it, why didn't the Tuba Gang deliver?
We should have watched more closely. We'll have to send somebody to find out why the moderator on Lookout didn't return.
I swear, if they kept the stuff for themselves, god damn it, we had a good system going.
Whatever they did, the system is broken. The big boys are here, and I really don't know what we're supposed to do!
So long as we stay up here, at least we will be safe.
The reunion opens up with some dialogue, as well as footage of the cannibal cutting up a penguin. We then shift our focus to the cannibal exploring the mall. before it cuts to the dojo. A moose penguin who we'll call Moderator Moose leaves the dojo. And then we cut to little Jeffy again, who's entered the coffee shop. The agent starts crying in hunger while another penguin, who we'll call Scavenger, approaches the sled. He asks why he's crying, but also focuses some of his attention to the Puffle. A stampede of Puffles pushes through the town center, and then the Puffles from earlier take the puppet skin. We see Big Jeff leave the cafe and then enter the nightclub. The episode cuts to little Jeffy's friends who split up from them, now sitting at a campfire. They talk about the giant zombie monster before they shift their conversation to finding little Jeffy. A group of penguins from the Purple Republic overhear their conversation and heads towards them. One of the survivors pays attention to the fact that our main purple penguin looks similar to his fellow gang members. This builds tension as they don't know his background. A clash of beliefs happen. The Purple Republican who wants justice for his leader, and the Purple Republicans who see him as a traitor. The survivors try to break up the argument, but their attempts are shut down. The PR penguins punch our main PR penguin and decide to take him to the boss. The three escape and run through the forest. The survivor couple hit a dead end, and then survivor Guy gets snowballed in the leg. The two are held at Snowball Point, and in order to survive, survivor Guy insists that he'll tell him where little Jeffy is as long as they let him go.
Why should I trust you?
We were with him in the dance club. He killed all the leaders and escaped with us. I know where he is.
Well, go on. Where is he?
Don't do it.
The ski hill. We were supposed to meet up there. He should be waiting for us now.
And thinking everything's all good, he scrims away. In actuality, the deal was only for him, and the lady survivor has to stay with the PR penguin. They try to argue, but the PR penguin headshots the yellow penguin. Then our episode ends. The wasteland opens up at the docks, where we see several corpses from the aftermath of a gang war. There does seem to be a survivor. Little Jeffy and crew arrive, where they all settle down, and one survivor asks them for a truce from Little Jeffy. But little Jeffy just asks for pizza. As little Jeffy walks away, the penguin with the Viking helmet says he can guide them to pizza as long as little Jeffy helps him out. He agrees to help out, so he knocks the agent off the sled and puts the Viking helmet penguin on the sled. As he heads out, the agent starts crying for little Jeffy and later pays attention to the bodies around him. This causes him to snap out of his lobotomized state. He starts screaming to himself, but is then knocked out by the puppet for whatever unknown reason. Now we cut to the scavenger exploring the nightclub in search of little Jeffy. He's approached by Big Jeff, who then threatens him. He starts interrogating him regarding little Jeffy's whereabouts, and Scavenger decides to help him out. He guides them to the ski lodge and is dragged along. We cut to the lighthouse, where the original Nacho leader is tied up.
Yar! I need my fix. That f***ing Tuba Gang. You don't even know what happened to them, do you? Oi! Ready to talk now, are ye? I figured it out is all. And what be it ye have figured out? How hard you're going to fall, you shit pirate. Ye forget how easily your men joined me. How easily ye penguins still blindly follow we mascots.
The Nacho leader then informs Rockhopper of little Jeffy. He starts to bring out his gang members to watch as a magician starts to torture the gang's former leader. After that, the episode ends.
What a beautiful performance thus far. You have a knack for this, my superstar.
Jeffy.
What is it you're trying to say?
Little Jeffy, when he comes for you, remember what you did here. Remember that you deserve it.
And with that, it's time for the grand finale.
Hey, yo, Gib, we know about little Jeffy too. Why did you ask us?
I'd say these fellas are going up in the world.
The further across the island we travel, the further into the wasteland we go. Little Jeffy's adventure on the east side of the island is starting to look like a blessing, compared to what is yet to come.
Following a quick recap, the reward opens with little Jeffy carrying the wounded penguin over to the lodge. They aren't able to enter, but the Puffle guides them to the window. Little Jeffy was initially having trouble entering, but the Puffle pushes him in. Once inside, little Jeffy is face to face with multiple grotesque penguins. One of the grotesque penguins tries to get him to leave when he has the chance. Little Jeffy enters a tent full of penguins, who we'll call Boss Man and Boss Girl. A security guard tries to kick him out, although it's stopped by the fact that the boss already knew who he was. They ask if they can get him anything, so of course, little Jeffy asks for pizza. The two penguins have a talk with little Jeffy, while the security guard goes to get a pizza. The two penguins praise little Jeffy for clearing out the gangs. Still, little Jeffy is still a bit confused, so the boss girl proposes that little Jeffy help take down the gangs that are left in the ski hill. Little Jeffy doesn't respond, and the two penguins start to realize that little Jeffy is an idiot.
Let's just get this trade over with. We'll be able to fast track the giant.
The brown penguin interrupts to make sure little Jeffy really is who he is. Little Jeffy tries his supernatural abilities again, which of course do not work. The rest of little Jeffy's friends jump through the window and encounter the same deformed penguins. The agent, back in his lobotomized state, starts freaking out while the puppet removes the tent that little Jeffy was in. Little Jeffy thinks his abilities worked, which shocks the other two penguins. The security guard returns to remind them that the pizza is ready. They go outside, where it seems the Viking helmet penguin is now out of the sledge as frozen solid with his face on the floor. The security penguin then pushes little Jeffy into the sled. The boss penguins continue to discuss the powers little Jeffy seems to have possessed, and then they bring him up the ski hill. Now we're back at the Puffle shop, where Mod Moose walks in search of the Tuba Gang. He flashes his flashlight onto dead penguins on the wall. We then hear some crying. Torches light up and then we see Pookies. The Pookies rub on him until the cannibal walks in, before the cannibal walks away and the Pookies rub up on him again. A flashback relating to little Jeffy plays out, which causes the cannibal to push the Pookies off Mod Moose and carry him over. The gathering takes us back to the scene where the characters leave the cabin. A group of huddled penguins around a fire pit realize who he is and make a plan to rescue him. Then Big Jeff and Scavenger show up, and so do Moderator Moose and the cannibal. Moderator Moose and the cannibal go up the ski hill. Scavenger is about to get taken out by Big Jeff, only for a few gang members to interrupt as they're searching for little Jeffy. Scavenger and Big Jeff follow in their tracks. Little Jeffy is brought up to the ski hill, and the two boss penguins use little Jeffy as not only a hostage, but also as a tool to get the ski gang to submit. The ski gang doesn't take these threats seriously. Later on, all the characters searching for little Jeffy arrive. They all quarrel on who gets to take little Jeffy. Back down the hill, the agent, the Puffle, and the puppet all leave the cabin to go to the ski hill. The other penguins inside the cabin follow as well. We're back at the top of the ski hill, with the different teams fighting over him. His friends arrive, with the cannibal now petting the agent. The other penguins join in. An all-out battle ensues between the different penguins who want little Jeffy. Scavenger does go up to little Jeffy asking for his friends.
Don't.
Big Jeff finally gets his hands on little Jeffy and jumps off the hill with him, ending the episode. We get another Halloween episode. This episode is focused on the Professor mascot, who's making a machine to get to Club Penguin Island. He hears voices within the machine, leading him to activate it. A deformed penguin runs out of the machine, screaming in pain. The Professor says he can help him, but the deformed penguin goes on a rampage. The black penguin falls into the machine, fusing himself with another penguin. Another deformed penguin leaves the machine, and the giant deformed penguin starts begging the Professor for help.
Why did you do this?
Stop! I can fix you!
The machine is broken. Here's something like this.
I can fix the machine!
You're so
Stop squeezing!
sorry. Please stop. It hurts.
We cut to another Halloween timer and the blue ghostly penguin starts spazzing out. All three deformed penguins then leave the lab and go into the cabin where they meet little Jeffy. We then see a zombie penguin emerge from the ground and take the corpse of the dead professor. The monster eats him and ends the video off by saying that was scrumptious. There wouldn't be another episode for 3 years up until the race. Now we're back to the little Jeff situation. The deformed penguins go up the ski hill, which scares the other penguins there. They then decide to just jump off the ski hill. We see Big Jeff riding little Jeff Jeffy, thinking about how much money he's about to make. Sled penguins arrive and push Big Jeff off, taking little Jeffy for himself. The boss penguins arrive and take out some of the sled penguins, but then the sled penguins summon a giant sled with spikes, which kills the male boss penguin. The lady boss penguin goes down an ice slope, leaving the others behind, only for Big Jeff to come back and get his hands on little Jeffy. An arm comes out of the machine and grabs little Jeffy. Big Jeff hops on the sled of another sled penguin and maneuvers himself into the machine. He fights off the different penguins in there. Gang members arrive at the scene and, of course, little Jeffy's friends and the deformed penguins soon follow. Back inside the machine, Big Jeff gets his hands on little Jeffy again and continues to fight off the sled penguins. The gang deflates the sleds under the machine, which leads the sled penguins to repair it. The gang members slow down, but they end up being run over by the machine. The Puffles from inside the puppet hop onto the machine and launch an attack, though Big Jeff rides off with little Jeffy once again before he's met up with the boss penguin. The agent zooms past, and while he does that, a penguin hands him a piece of paper. The snowball made by the mutated penguins gets bigger and ends up crushing the machine and later the boss penguin. After that turn of events, we're in the clothing store that's now occupied by Rockhopper and the Nachos. One of the female penguins is disgusted at the idea of entertaining Rockhopper. Rockhopper tells her to come close, only for him to grab onto her and belittle her.
What happened to you, Rockhopper? This isn't the famous pirate. You're just a pathetic shell of a penguin. I am not doing anything I don't want to do.
You not be telling me what you be wanting? What about what I want? Yeah? Tuba Gang not giving me what I want, so why should I give you what you want? Yeah.
Rookie walks in and tells Rockhopper about the events going on in the ski hill before ending the episode. We get one final episode before the series goes on another hiatus. This episode is titled, I Tried to Play Club Penguin After It Shut Down. Do not attempt this. Here's what the first screen of text says. About a month ago, my friend, Redacted, helped me out with a hack that could access an archived database on the original domain. This was possible thanks to an address seen in an old PewDiePie video from when he was using a former Club Penguin office. He showed the old servers in a video. I've been trying to get it to properly work ever since, but today I was able to successfully use it to access at least one remaining archived server. We're in the perspective of a player who somehow managed to access Club Penguin. Everything operates just fine, though he does mention a few bugs. We notice that his name is undefined. It also seems that the island is in its Halloween theme. He talks about colliding with invisible barriers. We follow him around for a bit, and we see him walk into the Puffle shop, where he mentions a particle effect going on. This is the part I regret most, he says. He enters the pizza place, and right when that happens, everything starts to glitch out. The theme changes from the Halloween theme to the more post-apocalyptic monochrome vibe we're familiar with. He explores when everything is happening, but when he enters the forest, we see the giant zombie penguin monster emerge. Pillars of penguin corpses start to pop out, and we zoom in before we enter his igloo. The glitching stops, but a teal penguin with a red helmet appears. Our main penguin walks towards it before we hear a splatter effect and an error message that says undefined. We get one last screen of text. I've tried logging back in, but the hack hasn't successfully worked since. Clearly though, it's not worth the risk. I have a headache. At first, I wasn't too big of a fan of little Jeffy being selfish, but then I thought about it. He has a childish mindset in a fucked up world. How else can you write him? Let's focus in on that last video because I feel like it would have been so much more effective if it didn't have any of the static effects. I feel like error messages or blue screens of death would have worked a lot better. There's two kinds of horror genres taking over the internet right now. There's digital horror, which makes use of our nostalgia and media-induced childhood traumas, and AUs, which take our favorite properties and characters into edgy but sometimes horrifying scenarios. And this series blends the two pretty well. I mean, like I said, this series is more so just a parody, but the horror definitely is effective. It tries to unnerve us and make us distraught as to what became of our favorite childhood game. Also, how many of you guys read or watched Club Penguin creepypastas? I remember seeing the title for one and being afraid to watch the video. It probably wasn't even that scary to begin with. Anyways, take care of yourselves, and of course, as usual, please have yourselves a damn good one.